Well, guys, we have officially reached that moment in time where Avengers Infinity War has happened. It's a thing. We are in a post-Infinity War world, and we are in a pre-Avengers 4 world, and I can officially say that is the most torturous year I will ever have. I think this is the biggest cliffhanger I've ever experienced, and it's just insane. I want to go ahead and warn you right now that this is going to be 100% a spoiler-filled review, and if you haven't seen the film, I highly recommend you do not watch any further at this point. But I do also would like to say that if you have not experienced Avengers Infinity War yet, or you wish to go re-experience it in theaters, do yourself a favor and experience this film in IMAX. This entire film was shot with IMAX cameras, and I think you owe it to yourself to see the truest form it's in. Whether you are a fan of 2D or 3D, IMAX offers both. I personally saw it in IMAX 3D and I enjoyed it, but I tend to like 3D, that's just me. If you don't like it, there are 2D options, but make sure you can see IMAX because the film offers an aspect ratio of 26% more of the screen. It's equivalent to watching a video like this that I've been doing, where you take up the full screen instead of having the black bars on top and bottom, but instead of it like zooming in like I had to for copyright, this actually allows you to see the entire film that was shot and captured on camera. You actually could see more of the screen, so make sure you do yourself a favor and experience that. With that being said, we're now going to go into full spoiler territory. So much happens, and we're just gonna start at the very beginning, which is where we left off at the end credit scene of Ragnarok, the one that I found the most meaningful. Thanos' ship hovers over Thor and Loki, and you open the film and right away it's a kind of scary distress signal, and it's really frightening, and you do find out the Guardians actually pick it up later, but just the Asgardians are already diminished and dead, and who's walking over those bodies? We thought it was Loki. No, it's actually Ebony Maw, who I actually think is the best of the Black Order. I thought he did fantastic. He was so good. He was kind of menacing. Of course, there was that Austin Squidward line, which was hilarious. The whole theater lit up, by the way. It was fantastic. I love how this film opened up, where it didn't go into the full kind of promotional black and silver red Marvel Studios 10 years logo. Marvel Studios, my bad. It actually just was the Marvel Studios logo, and I was like, oh, nothing's gonna happen, okay. But the I and the O did turn into a red 10, and I did appreciate seeing that, and I did applaud it. So it was a fantastic time. I want to go ahead and tell you guys right now, if you are looking forward to hearing or re-experiencing the opening night fans' cheers and applause and gasps, I did capture it, and I have the audience reactions, and that will be released upon the DVD and Blu-ray release, which you will be able to see on my second channel, The Theater Experience, linked in the top of the description. In the meantime, you can check out other Marvel films we've done, like Captain America Civil War and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I got Black Panther, Spider-Man Homecoming, Doctor Strange to come. It's going to be great. Make sure you check it out. We also offer other things like DC and Star Wars and many other things that are worthy. But back on topic to Infinity War, the fact that the whole Asgardians are pretty much dead. My friend said he saw Korg and Valkyrie's dead bodies. Other people didn't, or said they haven't seen that, so it's kind of up in the air. I've only, at this point, seen Avengers Infinity War once, so with that being said, I am going to have to relook at that, but I would hope they're not there and that we could reuse them for sequels, because I like those characters a lot. And it is unfortunate that pretty much all of Asgard is now dead, and it's unfortunate that two awesome players, a lot of people died in this film. The first to go was Heimdall, and honestly it was really cool seeing him summon some dark magic to conjure the Bifrost and send Hulk to Earth after his really brutal feeling punch out with Thanos, which was a really good fight. I loved it, and I don't even think he was using the Power Stone, Thanos. I think he was holding his own against the Hulk. It has been said that the MCU's Hulk is weaker than the comic Hulk because it adds more tension and you can be more worried, and I honestly do appreciate them taking that route. It is just fantastic to see. I can say that a lot of the promotional material that you may be seeing on screen now lied. A lot of it is not shown, like that shot of all the Avengers with Hulk, Captain America, Black Panther, Okoye, Bucky, Black Widow, War Machine and Falcon all running with an army of Wakandans. It's not even in the film, and I kept thinking, well, that's still gotta have to come into play, and it never does. And honestly, props to them for subverting my expectations. They did a fantastic job. A lot of the times where we see Thanos with only 2 Infinity Stones, whether it's on the poster or in the trailers, there's actually a lot more to come, and he already has like either 3 or every stone. Like by the time he hits Captain America and Cap's trying to resist that gauntlet, he has 5 out of 6 stones, but you only see 2. That's the good Marvel trickery they got going on. A lot of times when you see Thor with his eye patch, he actually has a new robotic eye. That's really interesting. But I love that this does feel like a very important and meaningful film. Like it doesn't pull any punches. Like Loki's death, it isn't treated and like sombered over. It's a death that happens, and more deaths are on the way, and it's very unfortunate. Like Gamora's death is very depressing to have to experience, because like even though she's laughing it up, that like he won't kill his favorite person in the universe, he will. Thanos will do it in order to achieve his goal, because he believes it's the right thing. It's how you summon the Soul Stone. Amazing to see Red Skull back. That was fantastic to see. I do want to go ahead and tell you guys that while I am kind of like picking and choosing things to say, I said kind of a lot less and jumped straight to the deaths in the first recording I did for this, because I just didn't process everything 100%. There was just so much to process. It was immensely insane. There's just so much good chemistry between everybody. None of the Avengers are on screen together 100%. Not every teammate sees each other. It's broken up into groups. Like you got Thor, Rocket, and Groot, which I thought was working very well. I love how Thor refers to Rocket as Rabbit. I love how Thor took Groot as an elective on Asgard. That's actually really cool to hear. I think my favorite moments were when we were on Titan with Iron Man, Iron Spider, which was a great suit. I love, like, he got a great applause when he suited up, as well as when he got the arms out. That was fantastic. But also you got Star-Lord, Drax, Mantis, and Doctor Strange, all of them together, and then Nebula crashes at the end, and it's just such good fights. That was a great fight sequence where Doctor Strange is helping them like conjure platforms to jump on, as well as jump through portals. I love how Star-Lord jumped back into a portal and flipped off Thanos. It was fantastic. I love how Star-Lord called him Grimace, which was just, it might be obscure for people. I recognize Grimace. I think it's funny. I cracked up. I still do. There's just so many jokes to unpack, and I can't get to them all. But there was just so much meaningful things that happened. I love the different fighting that went on Titan against Thanos. Everybody gets a hit on Thanos. They try to attack. They do their best. They do what they can. But unfortunately, it's just not enough. He's just way too powerful. Thanos is going to take them out, because he just gets more and more powerful with each Infinity Stone. Each one used very well. I love the threat of the Power Stone in the beginning. And then he gets the Space Stone, which allows teleportation. I was kind of worried how it would look, because we saw the same type of teleportation like engulfing a group in X-Men Apocalypse, and while I think the effects look good in that film for the tone it's set in, I don't think it would have looked as good here in Infinity War, and luckily it does look a lot better. That's not me ragging on X-Men Apocalypse whatsoever. That's actually just me saying that I don't think the effects in X-Men Apocalypse would work in Avengers Infinity War, but I feel like the effects of Avengers Infinity War fit well for its film, and it would probably work well in X-Men Apocalypse, because it just looks a lot more realistic, if that makes sense. But it's just a lot goes down. It's great. And the scene on Titan where Mantis is reading Thanos' mind and his emotions, and Star-Lord breaks down. Like, even though they're so close to pulling off the gauntlet, if it's just so heartbreaking. It really is, just to think, because had Star-Lord just waited 10 more seconds, he could have done whatever he wanted to tear apart Thanos. He could have done whatever he wanted, brutally murdered him in the best ways. And I think we would have all liked to have seen that come the end of the film. We'll have to wait a whole year, unfortunately, but because you can even see Spider-Man trying to pull off the gauntlet, and he almost does, but then Thanos grabs it at the last moment, and then he gets it back on, and he's so pissed. He's so pissed that he just looks behind him, sees the moon, and we've seen leaked footage of this come out, and they've released an official photo of it, but the fact that he just clenches his fist, and it looks like, if I'm remembering this right, not only do pieces start flying toward Titan, but like they go through portals to get there faster, and it just thrown straight into Iron Man and everybody else, and Iron Man even cracks a joke about it later. It's just such a good set piece. It's so beautiful. All of Wakanda was beautiful to see. It's not like a big thing. This isn't like a Black Panther 2.0. Even Chadwick Boseman said as much. This isn't a big thing that it's like, oh, this is a sequel to every character. This actually just feel like a huge crossover event where people get to say stuff, other people get to say stuff. Not everybody gets like a lot of screen time to shine because there's so much to shine on other characters. Some characters aren't even in this, like Hawkeye and Ant-Man. I thought they were gonna appear at some point, and when they didn't, I thought they would be the end credit scenes. They weren't even in it. They weren't in it at all. Only by name. Only by name. And we will touch on the end credit scenes in a bit. I will go ahead and touch on the deaths of every character. It's just mind-blowing because we had about a 16 count of deaths. It's just insane. I'm going to remind myself. Actually, I made a list so I don't forget everything because I have forgotten in the past the entire list. But it was just so heartbreaking, and I will say that I had 3 stages of depression hit me on each and every one of them. So I'm actually going to pull up my list real quick. God, this film was just amazing. And then I do want to let you guys know I will be ranking the MCU films at the very, very end. So after this whole Infinity War challenge, so please stay tuned for that. I do have the list up now. Sorry about that. We have Heimdall, Loki, Gamora, Vision, Scarlet Witch, Groot, Star-Lord, Mantis, Drax, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Bucky, Sam, Doctor Strange, Maria Hill, and Nick Fury all died. All 16 of those characters died in this film. That is insane because we know how lacking of like serious deaths Marvel has had, and the fact that all this happens and it's legit. And a fellow YouTuber who I am a friend of, Chainsaw Reacts, has stated in a live stream he did the day before this is posted. He was talking about how he feels like while a lot of these will be reset, he thinks everybody who died before the snap will remain dead. And I actually think that's a good theory and will be true. And even though you know other heroes are going to come back, because you can't keep Spider-Man and Black Panther and a lot of the Guardians of the Galaxy dead 100%, because, you know, we need sequels. Money obviously is a big thing, and sequels have been announced, but also they just got here, some of them. Like, Spider-Man did just get here. This is his 3rd film, but he has only had his 1 major standalone. Black Panther just had his major standalone, and oh my god, the theater gasped immensely when they saw Black Panther disappear, because you never would have thought that would ever happen. Black Panther of all people? No way. It's just insane. And I will tell you right now, my 3 stages of depression was, while I was feeling the emotions for Heimdall and Loki in the beginning, when Gamora left, it was awful. It was very sad. I was emotionally invested, but I started to get teary-eyed when Wanda had to kill Vision. She had to destroy the Mind Stone in his head and pretty much implode Vision. And it really got me. And what's just so awful is that he understood what he was dying for, and he was ready for it, even though he was sad, because Vision does have emotions. Even though he was sad, it was the only option, and it's very unfortunate that the last thing he saw was his love, and then the next thing he ends up seeing is being resurrected and face to face with Thanos, who tears the Mind Stone out of his head, and just you see the biomechanical guts of his brain, and it's so just disturbing to see. It is very, very disturbing. And it was very fascinating to see that and also sad that he was thrown to the side, and all of his red just sort of leaves his body, and he becomes like a muted red color, like black and white almost. It was kind of disturbing. He doesn't even have pupils in his eyes anymore. He just completely shut down, literally drained of all life, and that got me very emotional. The next thing that got me the most emotional until the next thing was Groot when he was disappearing and Rocket just pleading for him not to go. It was very sad to see. It was just awful because we already experienced Groot's death, and that was the original Groot that did die in Guardians of the Galaxy. You know that by James Gunn. And then we have this new offspring of Groot, and he disappears, and he's just a boy. And it's just very depressing to see and unfortunate, and everybody dying is unfortunate, but this was just extremely sad. And then what really hit it home was my favorite superhero of all time, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, pleading for his life. That's exactly what happened. He said, "Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good," and I had to cover my mouth because I was breaking down, crying in that theater. Tom Holland's acting is so phenomenal. He made me tear up. He still does to this day when that scene in Homecoming pops up where he's lifting the rubble, but before that he's calling out for help because he's so defenseless. He hasn't the strength yet. It sounds like a real person trying to just get out of their situation, but they're suffering because they can't. And then the same thing happens here 10 times because he can't control it. He's pleading for Tony to help him. He doesn't want to go. He keeps repeating that. And there's nothing Tony can do. He can't do anything. And he disappears along with everybody else. And Tony's just left there with Nebula. Nebula says he did it. In this film, Thanos won. Now, I've always been intrigued to make my own films, and one of the biggest things I've always wanted to do was an instance where the villain wins and he beats the heroes. I think that's one of the most intriguing things you can do, and what's really incredible is the fact that this film does it, and every hero is just left confused. I was kind of surprised to recount this. All the core Avengers are still alive. That would be Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, Thor, Black Widow, Hawkeye out there somewhere, and, War Machine and Nebula and Rocket. That's pretty much all there is, as well as Shuri, Okoye, M'Baku. And what was interesting while watching was when I saw that M'Baku, Okoye were fine on the battlefield, I was like, okay, so they're not going to be killed. If they're not going to kill them, they're not going to kill Black Panther. And sure enough, T'Challa sits next to Okoye and tells her, "Up, General, up. This is no place to die." And then he withers away. It's just so impactful and baffling. You don't expect it whatsoever. It's so incredible, and there's so many great things that happen. One really cool thing that I didn't mention about the fight on Titan was where Doctor Strange, because he's really like one of the biggest of this entire story, where he multiplied into like 30 versions of him, which is something that he can do in the comics. It was just so awesome to see, as well as him peering through time, and he says he looked through 14,605 outcomes. And Tony asks, "Do we win any?" Doctor Strange says 1. And some people, me included, can tend to think that, oh wow, yeah, a high number, and we only win 1. Like, I get that that's definitely a thing that has become kind of cliche, but when you've experienced 19 films to this point, this is the 19th film, and they give that high of a number of outcomes, and they can only win 1, it's immensely impactful. That's a big word I keep saying, and it's even more impactful when you realize the only way they can actually defeat Thanos is that people have to die. Whether they get reset or not, This was the only way. Doctor Strange says as much, and then he withers away. And then, the last shot of the film, Thanos enters a kind of paradise-like place where he's just walking through after being sent to who knows where after wiping out half of the universe. He just sees wide fields of green and just a beautiful setting of just a nice nature. And he sits down and he smiles. He's at peace because he won. He achieved his goal. And then the film ends. Directed by Joe and Anthony Russo. And there's no special Marvel end credits. Like, and I mean that as in, like, starring this person and this person. There's no, like, special look at everything like the first Avengers where we were going through different aspects. The Iron Man mask, Robert Downey Jr., Thor's hammer, Chris Hemsworth. Or Age of Ultron, where we're going through a marbled sculpture of the Avengers fighting Ultron bots. You don't get anything but a blank screen of white text of actors' names, and then it immediately jumps into the credits rolling, because they're leaving that end credit scene for the very, very end. And we're going to talk about that right now. The end credit scene that is... I realized what it was because I had seen a set photo of Maria Hill and Nick Fury in these outfits, and I was just thinking, okay, I know this is gonna be, it's Captain Marvel. Because they had said this was happening at the same time of Captain Marvel set photos. There was no, like, real correlation of the set photos with each other. It's just something that mixed in my head that, oh yeah, it's gotta mean that, definitely. And sure enough, Maria Hill disappears after just destruction is happening because half the population is disappearing. And yeah, Maria Hill disappears. I figured, like, it would just be her that disappeared because, you know, half. But yeah, no, this does make sense that more than one person can disappear in a set location. So he heads into his duffel bag in the back seat and he activates his pager, and right away he's disappearing, and he gets pissed, man. He says and he just disappears because that's key censorship of the F word. That's just that, you know, Samuel L. Jackson would want to say, and, you know, it got a good laugh out of the theater. But it's also really good editing there. And he drops it on the ground, and it says sending, 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 and then a star pops up, and we recognize that star, and then the red and blue decal, and yep, we all applauded. It's Captain Marvel. My friend next to me was like, what does that mean? And I just reassured me, it's Captain Marvel. Because he's a good comic book fan, but he's not as nerdy as I am, so I understand. A lot of times this stuff will happen with end credit scenes with, like, oh, this is coming. People are like, what's that? And of course, by the time it hits, like, we know what it is, and then a new thing will be introduced in the comics. They're like, what's that? It happens very often. It's fun. And then it cuts to black, and it says Thanos will return as one final bitch slap to the entire audience. Because nobody enjoyed that. They were like, yeah, Thanos is bad. They'd be like, oh, man, hate him. We all hate Thanos. This is the villain we love to hate. And those are some of the best villains, like Biff Tannen, Back to the Future, Voldemort and Harry Potter, freaking Thanos in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He did fantastic, and, like, he looked great. A lot of the visual effects looked great. The motion capture on Josh Brolin's Thanos was beautifully done. This film is mind-blowing. It's so good, and I really can't say it's one of my favorite films yet, like, better than some of my favorite films, because I really feel like I've only watched half of a film. And that's no knock against the film, because I love this film. I loved it so much that it really only felt like an hour and a half to me. And I've been hearing a common complaint that it runs kind of long. I don't get that whatsoever, honestly. This film felt an hour shorter than it actually was for me. Whether that's because it felt so new with different things, or because I was just so entranced in the story, I think it's both. It didn't feel that long to me. I wish it was longer. I wish it was 3 hours. I would love to have watched more. But hey, I'm excited for the next 2.5 hour epic they're going to present with us, where I'll be able to sit down at home with future people to show, and we get to watch an awesome 5 hour plus epic of the Infinity War. And that's really awesome. So I think the Russos have outdone themselves. I think it's the best they've done in the MCU, and we are going to read off my ranking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So as it goes for me, at the bottom I do have Thor: The Dark World and the first Thor. Both movies I think are good in their own right. They have really great stuff in them, but some stuff is kind of lackluster. It's not my favorite. Iron Man 3 is next, which honestly surprised me. I remember walking out of that theater saying, that's my favorite film ever. And upon rewatch, while it's intriguing and I love where they take the character of Tony Stark, it's not as impactful to me, I guess you could say. It's not as, like, amazing as the next few films, honestly. Above that, I have The Incredible Hulk, which is probably a shock to a lot of people because not a lot of people like it, and it's their least favorite. I think it's a little underrated for the MCU, as well as Iron Man 2 next. I think they are the underdogs of the MCU. Then I have Age of Ultron. I think it was a great time. Definitely underrated. It gets way more flack than it deserves. There's a lot of good stuff in it. You should revisit it. Then I have Ant-Man, just such a fun time. Iron Man above that, the one that started it all, and just so beautifully crafted. I mean, this is the film that captured my attention. And you'd think, like, with the audiences you get today, that Iron Man isn't very impactful for a young age. I was 8 or 9 when I first saw Iron Man, maybe 10. Yeah, I was 9 to 10 years old, and I was sucked in. I was hooked. I loved it. And I didn't even like Iron Man because I didn't like the Armored Adventures show, which I actually hear is good, and I never gave a chance because I was kind of closed-minded about that. So it did something right. And then above that I have Doctor Strange, which is very similar to Iron Man, and I only have it higher than Iron Man because I'm more intrigued in stuff that deals with time travel, mystic elements, sorcery. I'm just a lot more interested in stuff like that. Just a personal thing. Above that, I have Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where they're both such beautifully crafted films, and it's awesome to fully realize now that Volume 2 is better than Volume 1. It improves on stuff, it has such a captivating narrative, and I watched the other day with my nephew, and he loved it, I loved it, and he's only 3. He's almost 3. It's fantastic, it's just good stuff. Then above that, I have Captain America the Winter Soldier, and Captain America the First Avenger. Both go hand in hand for me, but look, I know Winter Soldier is a better crafted film. Like, every problem I had in that film was immediately solved, like, minutes later within the film. And it really is one of the most perfect superhero films I've seen. It's just, I like the other films more. Like, I love First Avenger because I'm a sucker for time period films, and it's the start of my favorite Avenger other than Spider-Man. Then I actually have Thor Ragnarok above that, which I just recently rewatched, and honestly, it is like a thing I said with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where if you look underneath and you get used to the jokes overshadowing what you would say is overshadowing dramatic things, there's a lot of dramatic moments that work very well, and there's a lot of great set pieces, plus, come on, Led Zeppelin is amazing. Above that, I have Marvel's The Avengers, which it's seriously one of the best superhero films of all time. I think it's one of the best films of all time, honestly. I think it's one of my personal favorites. I am constantly captivated by it every time. I have great memories of seeing that film, and I hope to one day see it on the big screen again, because they keep doing it for these Marvel films and I never get a chance, so I really hope one day I'll be able to see The Avengers in theaters again. Above that, I have Captain America Civil War, which was, for a time, my favorite superhero film of all time when it came out. And it's definitely still up there, and it's currently ranked where it is because it's just crafted so beautifully. The Russos just did fantastic. They're seriously some of my favorite directors now. Above that, I have Spider-Man Homecoming, where, while it may not be as special as the other ones like Civil War and the Avengers, personally for me, it is because Spider-Man is one of my favorite superheroes of all time. I grew up reading him, watching him. I've seen every reboot, every iteration of that character. I started watching Tobey Maguire films as well as the 90s animated series. I especially watched the entire 90s animated series as soon as Andrew Garfield's 2012 Amazing Spider-Man came out. And I love that series as well as Tobey's. And then Tom Holland hit, and I heard his casting. I was like, who's that? I hope it's good. I trust Marvel. Civil War happened and blew my socks off, and then Homecoming happened, and I just praised at the altar of Tom Holland at this point. He's just so good. And upon rewatching Black Panther actually surpassed Spider-Man Homecoming for me. This didn't happen when I saw it in theaters. It was actually right below Homecoming. But now Black Panther is shot to the top of the list. Because seriously, it deserves it. It's just one of those films that's so captivating, so beautifully crafted. I can't wait to see more. And I know it's weird saying after Infinity War, considering what happened to Black Panther, but you know everything will be okay. And that leaves Avengers Infinity War. Where does it rank above everything? I think this will be better crafted as soon as I see Avengers 4, which the writers feel is actually better than Infinity War, which, if that's true, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die of ecstasy, because I don't think I can handle... Yes, I can handle it. Give it to me now. I need future Avengers. I need Avengers 4. So looking forward to it. So I know it feels weird to say, especially with how new it is, but just constantly rethinking about it over and over again. Avengers Infinity War hits the top of the list for me, and I think that will especially be true once Avengers 4 hits and I can put it together with Infinity War and have this awesome 5-hour epic. So that's it. That is officially my Infinity War challenge complete. I don't know, I think I'll be doing this for other series of films as soon as their sequels come out. Like, I want to do the Rocky series before Creed 2. I want to do the Harry Potter series before Fantastic Beasts 2. And there's many other things that can come out. Like, I could do it for the X-Men films. A lot of different stuff. And maybe I can reapply this same technique to standalone films. Maybe for Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel when they come. It's going to be fun. So, that being said, guys, if you want to hear my immediate reactions, go ahead and plug this, because I never do. You can follow me on Stardust. It's actually blown up my Infinity War reaction. And I just gotta say, thank you all so much if you stuck around this long for watching. I very much appreciate it. So that being said, guys, if you enjoyed all that I've done for this MCU review ever since the beginning of the year, hit the like button, subscribe if not already. That being said, I hope you have a great day. May the Force be with you, always.